what up, everybody? Welcome back to the Real Life Entrepreneur Podcast. It's your boy, Al. Listen, tonight, man, tonight's a little bit, it's almost like an introduction. Me to you, you to me, and tonight you get to know a little bit about me. And I think what we're going to do is, every episode I'll give you a little bit more about me, and you'll figure out why I wanted to do a podcast, why it was important for me to, decided to get information out just to anyone that will listen, right? But I thank y'all for tuning in. I thank y'all for paying attention. And hopefully you get something out of this by the end of the seasons. It's just a lot of love. And I'm looking forward to taking this ride with y'all. So if y'all want to ride with me, I'm going to ride with y'all. We're going to go. We're going to learn together, grow together, love together. And we're going to become family tonight. So I wanted to actually talk a little bit about me. My name is Aldiana Otto. What can I say, right? I am definitely the product of a single parent household. It's raised by my mom. I have 4 siblings. Actually, I have 3 siblings. So it's 4 of us, right? I'm the only boy, the oldest boy, and you can't imagine the amount of pressure that's on my shoulders to make things happen, to ensure that I'm successful so I can take care of my family. And my story gets wild. It gets crazy, just like your story, right? You know what your story is. I know what my story is. And tonight I just wanted to share a little bit about my story. So, I was born in Jamaica. We're not talking about Jamaica, Queens. We're talking about Jamaica, right? Like Kingston, all of that, right? From this parish called St. Mary. And for those of you who don't know parishes, they're just like states, right? So I'm from St. Mary, which is really close to Ocho Rios. A lot of people know that, obviously, for vacation and stuff like that, right? I was born there. I was born in Port Maria, which is literally the center of St. Mary, right? That's kind of like the hub where everything goes down. So I was born there. I was raised both by my mother. Some parts I was raised by my grandmother. But at the end of the day, I feel like I was raised by my family. So my mom has 7 siblings. So she comes from a large family, and each and everyone played a major part in my life, right? And so for them, I'm truly grateful and thankful for who I've become, the character that I've developed, and just the person that they inspire me to be, and the person I aspire to be is all due to them, right? So let's talk a little bit about like how I came up. Mom didn't actually do really bad in life, believe it or not, when we were raised in Jamaica. My mom was the #1 insurance sales agent in Ocho Rios for like 5 years running straight. She ended up becoming a teacher. So she taught, I believe it was high school, if I'm not mistaken. So my mom was really doing her thing in Jamaica. And I just thought that was the dopest thing. Also, she was into fashion. So, if you know me in my personal life, I like to get down with dressing. Try my very best to dress the part, right? Be the part, do the part, dress the part. For me, I always believe in dressing for success. And dressing for success, hey, I get that from my mom. She is well put together, well maintained, no matter what's happening in our lives. And for as long as I can remember, she has always, and when I tell you always, dressed to the nines, like, yo, you invite my mom to the mailbox, she's going to be dressed up. That's how fly my mom is. So, just always well put together. And I've always grew up watching her do that. And I figured when it was my turn, I grew up, especially in my adult life, I got into finance really, really early on in life. And it's just been my path so far, right? And for me, it was always about carrying yourself well, learning the business that you're in, knowing it inside and out, and doing it all while dressing the part, right? I think that's probably one of the most important things. I feel like people generate a lot of respect out of the way that someone carries themselves. So we're not saying dress to outdress or outshine someone else. What we're really saying is you dress the part, you dress for success. And so if I ever should give you one tip, the tip that I'm going to give you is you dress for the life that you desire. You dress for the part that you want to play. You dress for the role that you want in life. you dress for success. And I noticed there's a lot of things that you can do in life where you don't have to dress up. But I feel like a lot of times when you dress for success, it also makes you feel really great. And so, like I said, my advice, dress for success. Makes you feel good, you look good, you garner respect from just that, and then just make sure that you can follow through with all the tangibles, right? Anyway, back to it. So I was raised in Jamaica, raised with my grandmother. My mom, she actually came to the United States, I believe early in the 90s or late 80s. I'm definitely an 80s baby. Obviously, I was born in 82. And, spent most of my childhood years in Jamaica. I didn't get here until, and when I mean here, I mean to New York City. I didn't get to New York City until so it was like 93, right? Like 1993 or around that time, 92, 93. But for the most part, when I was in Jamaica, there's a couple key relationships that I think really made me who I am. It was getting close to my grandmother, Miss Olga Reed. Like this lady, when I tell you, she's just the epitome of strength, right? Strength. She makes you feel good. She's nice. She's tough. She's everything combined and everything rolled into one pot, which just makes for an absolutely phenomenal person. So much love and shout out to her. Just like your grandmother, my grandmother's my heart. So, much love to her. Anyway, she raised me. I went to school. I never had a brother when I was in Jamaica, when I was coming up. My mom only had me and my next closest sister. But I did have a cousin who felt like a brother, right? Would treat me the same way a bigger brother would treat you, right? Not necessarily the nicest. He was a little bit older, obviously, so he was in a, cooler crowd. But for me, he was always somebody that I looked up to. He had always excelled at sports. So I remember in Jamaica, he used to excel at track, which was just really, really dope. And I always thought that was just something really, really phenomenal. I always looked up to him for that, right? But yeah, we grew up together. And no matter how we fought or bicker, like, no matter what it was, I always was going to get him, right? Like, I didn't know how he felt about that, but I felt like I would always make sure that I had his back, right? Anyway, I'm going to reference that little story a little bit later on when we get back to, later on as the years go by. So anyway, my mom immigrated. I was in Jamaica. I stayed with my grandmother for the most part. Ended up actually going to boarding school, believe it or not, right? And that's an experience in itself. But anyway, fast forward a little bit. I'm in this, Mom, hey, it's time for you to come live with me. She comes live with me. We fly out. I remember getting on a plane for the first time. And that was a surreal feeling. Imagine being on a plane for the first time, and the first place you land is New York City, that you don't know about. I'm a kid. I'm, 12, 13, 11, 12, 13, one of those ages, right? I don't care. In Jamaica, I'm not worried about New York City, right? But I get here, and the first thing, it was cold. This was like the dead of winter, right? So as a kid, I'm coming to New York, bright eyes, the lights. I'm loving everything. The airport was just buzzing for some reason. It's right around Christmas time, I believe. So anyway, takes me to Staten Island, and it's been go ever since. My mom, she's been here. There's been some struggles, ups and downs, but through it all, she's always been here for all of us, right? And so I'm extremely thankful for my mother for just being that person that really held it down, did whatever it took to really make happen, right? Now, if you notice, I mentioned no reference of my pops. I don't know. There's not really much to say. I mean, I don't really know him. I think the last time I saw him, I was 4. Probably got some siblings somewhere. I remember being here later on in life, found out I had like 2 sisters or something like that, but nothing crazy. Anyway, don't want to touch on that. Let's keep it pushing. And all these things that I'm talking about is just to give you a brief glimpse into what entrepreneurship has meant to me, how it created me, how it helped me get started, right? So let's just take a little bit of, let's skip some years, right? I went to Staten Island. My mom was like, "Oh, time for a change. We're going to New York." Did whatever we had to do. Came to South Florida. We went to Lauderhill was the first place we went to. But we didn't go to a mansion or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I think we lived over on a place called Deepside. I don't know if you ever heard of Deepside, but Deepside, that was a thing, right? I remember it like yesterday. But Deepside was kind of like, I don't want to say the hood, but I'm gonna say like the hood, right? It was like hood adjacent, I think, or where we lived was hood adjacent. But I think one thing that kind of saved me from the streets is, I always loved basketball, so that always saved me from getting into trouble and doing too many wild things. And obviously I did some things, but for the most part, keeping me out of any serious trouble, right? All right, so went to high school in Plantation, and I loved it, Left Plantation, went to college. I actually started out in Broward College. I was going to Broward College for about 2 years. But I think I was having too much fun. My mom thought I needed to be, get a little discipline. So literally could be the beginning of year 2. I'm going to tell you. So let me tell you a story how I got into the military. Mom says, yo, come down. I'm at the hair salon. Why don't you come pick me up? This time I was like 50. No. I was about, say, 19-ish, right? So I had a car. She's like, oh, come pick me up at the salon. I go to the salon. She's introduced me to this guy. This guy was a slick talker, bro. He was saying everything you want to hear. Oh, man, like, I got this situation, blah, blah, blah. Why don't you come check it out? I'm like, all right, no doubt. Mom was co-signing heavy. Yo, go check it out. See what I said. All right, cool. I kid you not. I ended up at the MEP station coughing. You know how you watch the movies where dudes is trying to get into the military, and in order to get through, they got to do like a physical. Boxers alone. I'm going in a room with a doctor, feeling on my testicles, talking about cough and all this. Oh, man, that was crazy. So literally, I ended up from just, yo, come check it out, to all of a sudden, I'm there doing the oath thing, and like a deer in headlights. I'm just doing this. So I really feel like my mom tricked me into the military. Like that's a crazy story. But I'm going to be extremely honest with you, man. I'm so much better for that. Because I think what she did was, just like any mom and her cubs, right? She's going to protect her cub. And she's going to do what's best for them, whether they want that or not. And I needed that discipline in my life, right? So, going into the military definitely kind of changed me, gave me more structure, and just made me an overall better person. So I'm extremely thankful to her for tricking me into the military, which is a wild story. Did my time, did my service, served my country to the best of my ability. Matter of fact, when I went to the MEP station, I took the exam. They were, you know how you take the test and it's like, hey, you qualify for like 2 or 3 jobs. So I think at the time I was, like, I don't want to put on myself that, hey, I'm smart, right? But I did well enough on the ASVAB where they offered me all 212 jobs, which, maybe it sounds like that was a great thing. But at the time, I'm a kid. I had no clue. I'm looking at 212 jobs. They're like, yo, just pick what you want to do. So at that age, they have no clue what you really want to do in life. But the one thing I knew was, from where I came and some of our struggles and circumstances, I never wanted to be broke again. And so everything in me was, hey, I have to work with money. So I looked at all 12 jobs. The only jobs that I came across that I knew that dealt with money was finance and accounting. So you know what? All right, I'm going to go into finance. I figure accounting, you specialized in, certain things, but I think in finance, it's more of a general thing, right? So I chose to be in the general just vicinity of money, right? Dealing with different finances. I learned tons too. I definitely did learn accounting for sure. And I was actually at one point stationed at Defense Finance and Accounting Services in San Antonio, Texas, which is the military operation where I actually did vendor pay, and we did some accounting as well, right? So anyway, fast forward, long story, I'm out of the military. I get home. After those few years in the military, I realized that There's one book that I read. So in these episodes, I'm gonna always give you a book reference. So I'm gonna want you to check out this book and this book. And the book that got me off of my ass was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. That was one of the most influential books in my life. And I know it's for millions and millions of other people. It's definitely a bestseller in the world. And so, I know that book has inspired other people, not only me. But I'm telling you my personal story with that book. So I read this book at 24. This time I was probably out of the military or no, I was out of the military for sure. About 25. At this time, I had just got a new car, I had just bought a house, new baby. I was doing my thing, but this book actually inspired me to go out and get it, right? It was teaching me a little. And obviously, the reason it probably connected so much was, remember I told you that I was going to connect the fatherless child thing and bring it back. Well, here's how I connected. Because I didn't have a male figure in my life at the time, that book referenced a story about a young kid who had two dads, right? He has a rich dad and his poor dad. And so for me, it was really easy to connect because I felt like that book was giving me life advice and lessons that should have been taught to me by my dad, right? The one that I never had. So anyway, fast forward a little bit, I got off my ass. At about 30, I hit depression. When I tell you I hit depression, maybe I was in the house 4 or 5 months, And a lot of times when you're going through these mental health issues, a lot of your friends aren't really realizing what's happening, right? They just feel like maybe you're being elusive or you're just out of the picture, but no one really knows what you're handling when you're away from any kind of spotlight. In any case, I'm there, I hit a severe depression. The reason I hit this depression was, and it was kind of weird at the time, but at this point I was, I had a car, I was married, I had a kid, right? So to most, I think that would be relatively successful, right? Or at least average, I think, right? But at 30, I felt like I had nothing. I don't know where it came from. I felt like I hadn't achieved as much as I was brought to this world to achieve. And so that really hit me hard. And it took everything in me to decide that I was going to turn that around. It took me about 5 months. And I said, all right, you know what? At 30, it's time to go. So I am currently 39. I've been running my business the better part of, 9 or going on 10 years. It's about to be my 10th season, right? And that's one of the stories I want to tell you too, is how I kind of got into the tax game. But anyway, got up off my ass and, this is 10 years later. So now let's talk about how I got into the tax business. Currently, I am the CEO, Chief Executive Officer of National Tax Preparers of America. I also have another company, Forever Good Credit. And I have one more company, which is Palm Tree Vacations. And I'll tell you exactly what all these companies do and how I kind of got into each different company, right? So the first one is better part of 10 years, 9 years. I started, actually went to learn taxes. So a friend of mine at the time, we were, when I was younger, I was doing some parties and stuff like that. He had a cousin, had like 18 offices. He had just got in. He had like 4 or 5 offices that he was running. And I was like, well, man, these dudes to me were the image of what success could be. So I was like, hey, I'm going to come work with you. Hey, what do I need to do? At the time I was in college, I was learning accounting. I was going to school for accounting, actually. And I'm like, oh, and they're like, well, no, you don't have to do that. All you have to do is, go take a class or we'll train you to do everything. Anyway, they were taking kind of too long. I ended up taking a course at like Liberty Taxes or something. And then when I was done, I called them up. I said, hey, I'm ready to rock and roll. I want to come work with you because, our conversation was, hey, I'm going to work with you this first year and I might be able to get my own office the following year. I was down to put in the work. I was down to do whatever it took to become successful. So I was down to put in the work. I go and I'm starting with them and I'm hustling. I'm, flyering. I'm working in the daytime. I'm learning taxes in the day. I'm flying at night. They're giving you the real play, the real hustle. Don't take it lightly. Tax hustle is a different kind of hustle because not only do you have to have the skill set to actually do the tax prep, but you also have to have the intestinal fortitude to go out and hustle every day, no matter what. Because if you don't hustle, you don't eat. If you don't get a client, you don't eat. If you don't process a tax return, you do not eat. So you had to be somebody who would hustle. So I would, do flyers. I'm doing flyers all the time. So anyway, started working with him. This was maybe a couple weeks in now. He isn't at the location that I'm at, but he had a manager there. And for whatever reason, I was cool with the manager outside of the office, but I felt like that manager, I don't know if she felt threatened. And, I wasn't there to take anyone else's place. I was there to make my own mark. And I was going to do that regardless, right? And I felt like maybe she felt threatened a little bit. At the time, I forgot to tell you, I had my first child. I was actually in the military. I got my wife pregnant right before taking off. And my baby was born 3 months before I got home. So you can imagine, I ended up taking like 2 months leave, and I had to get out the military, and I did what I had to do to make it home. So, she was born about 2 or 3 months before I got out of the military. So anyway, the reason why I bring that up is because now when I'm joining my boy and, working at his office, well, this manager, I kept telling her, hey, I was never going to miss another appointment for any of my kids, right? I had to be at all the doctor's appointment. That was my one thing. And I just told her, hey, this is what I wanted to do. I think at some point she just got frustrated that I wanted to go and, make sure I'm at all the appointments. And maybe she was afraid or didn't believe that I would commit. So, I get on the line. I call my wife at the time and I'm saying, hey, we got some money saved up. She's really giving me a hard time about making to these appointments, and I'm not going to miss one appointment. So I feel like, this is the end. What do you think? She literally looked at me. All she said was, yo, come home. As soon as she said that, I said, all right, I'll be there soon. I literally went back to the office. I said, hey, listen, just let me get all my stuff. I think today's my last day. I'm just going to go. She did it like with such joy. She was giving me back all my paperwork, everything that I had signed, everything. And that was a huge mistake because that paperwork had, non-competes, all these different things. I couldn't took what I know there to go do it somewhere else. It's a lot of things. And she just gave me everything back, right? I was like, all right. And, I was like, all right, well, thank you for everything. Appreciate it. And, I was out. So this was like during January, right? Friend of mine, Dean Stewart, right? One of my dearest friends, calls me up. He's like, yeah, Al, what you doing? It's like nothing. It's like, yo, listen, I know you trying to get in the tax thing. Well, I'm gonna introduce you to my boy. He got an office. If you want, you can work from down there. He must have already put the play together because when I went there, dude was like, yo, I'll pay you 70%. You can get this office. You can sit. You can do your taxes and do whatever you got to do. I'm like, all right, cool. Okay. Damn, that was easy. So I had to relearn that system because the system they used was significantly different from the other system I had learned, from my other boy. So I go in there, I learned. Now when I look around, it was like February 6th. Now, if you know anything about the tax game, February 6th is late in the season because returns are being done from January 1st, right? So I was kind of late into the game. But, long story short, I appreciate my man Stu. I call Dean Stu. He literally put the play together to make sure that, I was straight and I can kind of go make some money and, hustle and do whatever I got to do. But I think the guy kind of overshot it a little bit because he didn't think I was going to perform the way I did, which obviously, if you look back at the same story, maybe the same manager there just didn't think I was going to perform, right? But anyway, I did. And the one thing about me is I'm a problem solver. So all I did was, okay, no problem. I went in, I learned their system. I was ready to rock and roll a few days later. I literally learned everything I needed to do. And remember, I used to do parties. So I know a lot of people at the time. I'm in my phone. Oh, I'm doing taxes now. Why don't you, come through, give me the opportunity to earn your business, right? At least let me give you a quote, something. I just wanted to get them in the door. By the end of the season, everybody that walked through my door, I processed their tax return. I didn't lose one client that year. This is a fact. But back to a little earlier part in the story. Yo, I called my boy G. My boy, he not really working like that. I'm like, yo, G, yo, let's work. I'm gonna give you $100 for every customer that you bring in. And I'd learned the script I learned the script, and I was like, all right, G, this is what you gotta do. This is what you gotta say. Let's go out there, see if we could do it. My boy G was hustling me. And that's something I'll never forget. He was hustling with me all the time. And we literally went to, I think that office, it was over there. It was surrounded by like a Walgreens, and it had not only a Walgreens, it had like a neighborhood store, right? Which is like a neighborhood grocery store. And literally me and my boy would post up. We would see people. We would go up to them. Hey, I'm doing taxes. Give me the opportunity to earn your business. Why don't you let me get a quote? Would you like to set an appointment? Well, if you got some time now, why don't you come with me? Yo, he would do that the majority of the time. He would bring him in. I would knock him down. He would bring him in. I'm doing the taxes. If nobody was in the office, he was out there. I'm out there getting customers. Whatever it took to become successful. That year, I made enough money where I could go start my own tax business that following year. Now, I'm about to give you some of the pitfalls that I faced, right? Did well, told homie thank you. He made his money. There's tons of money that I didn't know he was making as well. And it's just part of the tax game. It's all good. I think now looking back at it, I shouldn't have really even taken it personal, so it's all good. So he made tons of money. I made good money. Decided to leave. They had some relationships with another guy. And, I'm like, all right, I know this dude, throughout the season where it kind of got close, he's doing a bunch of returns. I'm doing a bunch of returns. So we're doing about the same amount of returns. So we both did really well that year. So I said, all right, listen, I got my shit together. I got everything it takes. I'm just going to open up my own office. Why don't you come work with me this season? I give you a higher percentage. At the time, he probably was making, 50%. I said, hey, don't worry about it. Come through with me. I'm going to give you 60%. The whole time I put my money in, my sweat, my tears, borrowed some money from my wife at the time. She took money from her 401k, whatever we had to do to get started. We built out an office. I recruited my friends to come work with me. And the craziest thing happened, because it sounds like it's like the ultimate success story, right? Nah, this dude, for that season, my first year, I remember and I will never forget it. This dude poisoned the minds of all my friends I had recruited to come work for me. Hey, he should be paying you more. Hey, you should be making more money. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. He don't know what he's doing. This dude literally poisoned the minds of all my guys. And at the time, we had made some money, but I was like 50 grand in the red my first year. And I couldn't figure out why. Well, the fact is, when you run a business, what you're going to realize is that you could probably pay people more, but at the end of the day, you as the business owner, as the entrepreneur, you're going to take on all the risks and all the liabilities that come with that, right? So when I look at it, I'm 50 grand in the hole. They took their, I think I was paying them 50 and 60%, right? So with my 40% that came in, I had to pay overhead, water, light, cable, this, car payment. I feed my family. By the time I look, I have no money. I'm 50 grand in the hole. You know what they did with their 60%? They took it. They went to go have a good time. They took care of their families. They were having a blast. They didn't have the responsibilities I did, right? But anyway, poisoned their minds, and now they're thinking they should be making 70, 80%, right? All right, no worries. So what I did was I said, hey, that year I already kind of knew what was going to happen. The way he had poisoned their mind, it didn't really matter if I had given them the 80%. They were going to leave anyway. So you know what I did? I said, all right, I'm going to have to cut it down. I'm bringing everybody down to 40%. So I gave them a 20% hit. You can imagine they were going from making 60% to 40%. They couldn't have been happy. But at the time, I had to make a decision because I had to get out of that hole. This is the part that they don't understand. But they don't care. They just want to make their money. So for sure, they were going to already leave, right? But it was I made the change. So because he was strategic in how he poisoned their minds and when he did things and how he did things, right? And I wasn't in a position to say, all right, well, just leave. I'm just going to do whatever, right? So I kept him on board. He's over there. He's still poisoning them. I made the changes, but I made it so late in the season that it was difficult for them to go get another thing. So they had to ride out the season. Obviously, they complained, they gripe, but they didn't know the financial hardship that I was facing at the time. So anyway, I left them all in that office. And you know what I did that year? This is my second year now. I had to leave all the people in that office. I let them all work together. I went to the landlord. I got a second unit in the same building. I got all new people to come work in there. And believe it or not, my new people did better than the people that were in the old spot. All right? I knew they were going to leave. I worked something out with the landlord that would be my last year with that, and I would take a bigger space. And with the bigger space, I built it out. I put some sweat in there, did everything I had. So I was running two at the same time. And exactly what I said, all of them jumped ship after that second year, and that was okay. And now I don't feel bad about that 40% cut because they were going to jump ship anyway. None of them really cared or, wanted to care about what was going on with me. They cared about what he was saying. And I think, maybe a few years after, they all end up, they were working together that third year, I believe. And, some fell off, some stayed on, but whatever it is, I've learned not to take anything in business personal anymore. And it used to hurt me, I feel like it was almost traumatic. Because it's like, damn, these are my friends, people that I've taught to do this business. I've spent hours teaching what to do, how to do it, talk to the customers. Hey, do it this way. If they couldn't do the return, I would do it for them. I would show them how to do the return. So I was pouring into them. And there was never that mutual respect to say, hey, maybe he had to cut it. Because at the end of the day, I'm such a person that's looking for growth. My mentality was, man, as soon as my boy gets on, knows exactly what to do, hey, go open up an office over here and let's work on spending some money over here and grow. We can grow together and make tons of money together, right? But unfortunately that didn't happen. And sometimes, so I think that's why I have a tough time with working with friends. I try my very best not to work with them in that kind of capacity, right? I'll still invest with friends or, make money with friends, but never from working together. Like, I don't want to work with any of my friends. It's just a personal choice. And obviously you can tell because of, the backstabbing, and I just felt betrayed. That's really what it was. Anyway, fast forward later, took a few years, took some bumps in the roads. There were good years, there were bad years. But the one thing is, I never gave up. I always continued. I'm on year 10. Going into year 10, I have not given up. And that business has taken care of me and my family over the last 10 years, right? Allowed me some great opportunities to meet some amazing people. So I'm extremely thankful for that, right? Now let's talk about how did I get into the credit repair and business credit building company, right? So it's crazy. We have this dope integration deal that I landed built a relationship with the tax software developer. I sent him a 13-page proposal on what I wanted to do with credit repair. Actually, my game plan was to get customers to pay for credit repair from their tax refund. And I didn't want the preparers to have to sell it to the customers. Obviously, they would tell them about it, but I didn't want them collecting money. So what we did was we put together an API that would send the information directly from the tax software directly into the credit repair software, and then we would just do the work, and the money is collected through buckets from their tax refund, right? So everything that I wanted to do, everything that I pitched to the developer actually worked, and it's a product that's running to this day. So, obviously it kept us in beta testing a few years, but we finally are making, really good money from that product. And that's just the trust that, those partners have in me, and I'm appreciative. I'm so appreciative for the opportunity that they gave me, right? So I got to shout them out. And obviously I probably want them to sponsor this podcast one of these times. So I'm gonna hit them up because they need the recognition they need people to know that they give people like me an opportunity to become successful, and what we do with it is really up to ourselves, right? In any case, that's how we kind of got into the credit repair business. I was really just noticing that all our tax clients would come in, they would get these big refunds, they would go get these fancy cars, they would have no refund. And what we were thinking is, man, maybe instead of putting all that money down on a car or, a new place because they had terrible credit, well, let's fix their credit. So now, instead of using that money to do that, they can use it for a better quality of life, because now they can go and they can get a car and sign and drive. They can get an apartment and there's no issues. They don't require first, last, and security because they have great credit. That was our premise going into it and why we wanted to do credit repair. So that's credit repair. How did I get into vacation rentals? Well, in year 9, going into year 10, I realized that I like a business model where you can automate the process, right? And companies like Uber, Airbnb, VRBO, those types of companies, they pretty much automate the process, right? They're connecting the traveler or the end user directly to the product with limited human interaction. And so I wanted to do that too. I love real estate. Real estate has been a passion of mine. It's what I do sometimes in my spare time. Every year I'll sell 2 or 3 homes, just to clients or people that I felt like I wanted to work with. I do that for close friends as well. I feel like if you're my friend, you deserve a house. I'm gonna sell you a house. We're gonna make it work, and we're gonna do whatever it takes. But if you don't qualify for it, we're gonna get you on a path to work towards qualifying for it, and we're gonna make sure you get that home, right? That's kind of a perk of being my friend, man. I get you homes. But anyway, so I got into the vacation rental space. I really love it. I have an aggressive plan, and that's kind of what we're moving towards now. I think another thing that I want to do is I want to be direct contact for you. I want you to be able to reach me and ask me any questions. I have been in several different industries, mostly having to do with finance, a lot of business experience, good, bad, and indifferent. And I feel like at some point I want to create a way where you can get access to me, and I can help you. Because I remember when I was starting, I didn't have a mentor. So I want something between a mentor and maybe like a business consultant, right? Like wherever that happy medium is, that's where I want to be for you. So, me and my team will definitely put together something that you guys can reach out to us, and I'll be able to give you a consult. I'll probably be on the phone. It could be via Zoom and all these different platforms, right? But that's kind of where we are right now. And so with that being said, and that long, dry ass story, this is where we at, this podcast. And what I realized is, when I was choosing to become an entrepreneur, when I was leaving corporate America 10 years ago and trying to decide if I should leave corporate America and become an entrepreneur, should I continue to work at corporate America while trying to become an entrepreneur, or should I just not become an entrepreneur and work at corporate America? These are the decisions and the choices that I had to make. So what I ended up doing is when I came back from the military, my boys, they love to party. When I came back, I was like, damn, y'all still doing the same thing? All right. Well, if y'all like to do party, why don't we just throw a party? Let's throw parties and make money. We did pretty good. We were doing 500-600 people whenever we would do our events. So, they came with a lot of planning, and I was putting up all the money, and then to split it after recouping all my money, there just wasn't enough money to go around because my team was pretty big, but they got families they got to take care of, so it was just tough, and I get their decision, and obviously the margins in the parties for me and the way we did it, we weren't getting any of the bar action, which is where most of the money is. So that was a huge mistake that we made when we were younger. We should have probably from the jump made sure that we weren't going for more of a sexy look instead of actually making money. So the best advice I can give you, if you want to jump into parties and you want to be a promoter, and okay, be a promoter, but promote your own venue, rent a space, and then you control the bar. You get someone, you can use their liquor license, you can sell liquor, make money from the liquor, make money from the entrance fees, and that'll be a better deal. For us, we were only making money from the door, and then we were letting in 100 people easy. Probably more, because a lot of people that were coming to our events were friends. So really and truly, the establishment made God loads of money, or ton loads of money, but we as individuals, we didn't make that much money. Fortunately for me, I was able to get my money back, which is good, and so it's the experience for sure. But in any case, so that's kind of my little 1-2, a little bit about me, and I'm sure there's tons more to discover, but man, just telling that little story is so long-winded. I don't know if I really want to go anymore. But like I said, I'm here to answer questions, and you can always contact me, right? So, more to come. But that's just a little bit about me and why I even have the credentials to run a podcast. We're talking about 3 successful businesses. We're talking about maybe 5 failed businesses. I'm talking about losing friends. When they say it's lonely at the top, it's definitely a lonely life, and you'll realize that you'll start getting around people who can't identify with what you're going through. And so that's really what makes it lonely. It isn't because you're going to lose tons of friends, which you will. You're going to lose sleep, but you're going to make God awful amount of money. Then you're going to get some new friends. Then when the money run out, you're going to lose those. And then when you figure it out, save the money and, become a little frugal, then hey, that's when the life starts coming together, right? But that's kind of the ups and downs of really entrepreneurship, to be honest with you, at least in my experience. So, for me, there's a couple of things so let me give a couple of tips now, I think, if I'm speaking to a new entrepreneur, right? For an entrepreneur that's beginning, I think it starts with desire. So you truly have to have the desire. You have to have the passion to do it. And, most people, they're always saying, hey, you have to have the passion for whatever it is you're going to get into. I actually don't subscribe to that. I feel like you have to have the passion to become successful. So for me, I didn't necessarily like finance and accounting, but I was good at it. And my passion was building a business and a legacy for my family. And that's what I wanted to do. So that's what I did. But it doesn't necessarily mean I loved it. I love basketball to death. I didn't know how to make any money off of that. So I'm not going to be a coach. I wasn't an NBA recruit. I'm nice. I'm really, really nice. I got bodies on the court, like for real. But, it wasn't something that I could make money off of. So I just decided that, and I'm, real money. I'm not talking about betting or some silly like that. I'm talking about real money. So, if my passion is basketball, my passion is my family. Anything else I do outside of that is obviously to make a living. But I feel like now it's really to help. So I feel like my ultimate advice to you is this. When you're going to get in business, get into it to serve. You'll have two options. Serve people, solve a problem. If you can figure out those two things, you'll be absolutely successful and there'll be no stopping you, right? But now, practical tips, right? Something practical that I feel a lot of new entrepreneurs don't take enough time to learn. I feel like, honestly, you should learn what an income statement is, a balance sheet is, and a profit and loss statement. I feel like those things are crucial things for you to learn early at the beginning. I think if you take the time to learn those things at the beginning, I think you'll have a hugely successful and sustainable business long term. Trust me, that's one of the best advices I'm gonna put out there. Best advice to put out there. But outside of that, yeah, man, I'm just here, get with me. I want you to tune in to the podcast. I'll have tons more. It's not only going to be me, obviously. I'll have tons of special guests, a lot of successful entrepreneurs, a lot of successful corporate folks. And I just want to give you the opportunity to look at both sides of this and decide exactly where you're going to be. But for me, I believe in you just like I believe in me. And I want you to believe in me like I believe in you. So, let's do this together. Let's believe in each other and let's make it happen. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Real Life Entrepreneur Podcast. Make sure you check us out on YouTube. Go ahead and like and subscribe. Make sure you check us out on Spotify, Apple, and Google. Just remember, follow us on all social media platforms.